Hey, welcome back everyone. So today I'm here to lay down my thoughts and observations on the new Buchardt Audio A500s. Now before I begin, I need to make it clear that this is not a formal review. And I say that for the following two reasons. Number one, this is a high-tech solution that's a little outside of my comfort zone. But most importantly, number two, the A500 is a brand new product, and due to how it works, it will continue to evolve and improve over time as software allows, making it very difficult for somebody like me to come up with a performance summary that will be relatable to those of you who watch this video well after it's published. But still, I want to talk about this speaker because I feel like it represents the future of hi-fi. Because let's face it, as time moves on, people are going to expect more than just high quality, big sound from a small package. People are going to want something that complements their lifestyle. And that's exactly what the A500 offers. When you buy it with the hub, what you're getting is this self-contained ecosystem that will not only work with modern day tech, but it represents the ultimate in flexibility. So if you need a speaker that will work well next to a wall boundary, or you're going to have it very close to your ears, you don't have to worry about buying a separate product. You just buy this, and then the software will allow you to adjust the sound to where it performs best in the application that you have in mind. And then on top of that, who doesn't like the idea of eliminating equipment matching to where you can manipulate the entire sound just based off of a software tune? So if you want to listen at loud volumes and you like big dynamic output, there's a tune for that. Or maybe you're like me and you like that big, luscious sounding mid-range. Well, there's a tune for that. And I think for a lot of people, this represents a very ideal solution to where, again, the hi-fi complements your lifestyle and not the other way around. So having said all of that, let's take a closer look at these speakers and then I'll talk about how I feel they perform. Okay, so I have a lot of information to go over, so let's dive straight on into it. So, on the surface of things, the A500 looks identical to the S400, and that's because they're both around the same size, and they also carry the same aesthetic vibe. In fact, they even use the same high-frequency driver, which is a 19mm soft dome tweeter housed inside a large aluminum waveguide, or shorthorn. But once you begin to look deeper, that's when the differences begin to reveal themselves. Starting with the woofer, instead of using a 6-inch aluminum cone woofer, it now uses a 6-inch paper driver, which I think is a better match when it comes to pairing up a woofer to something like a waveguide, especially in a small speaker. Beyond that, though, there's going to be a major difference in terms of the price tag. The passive S400s retail for $2,000 a pair, whereas the A500s retail for close to $4,500 a pair if you buy them with the hub, which, since it's the critical part of the A500 ecosystem, I would say you want to go that route. So now let's turn the speakers around and note some of the more obvious differences. Now, it's worth noting that the A500 is a slightly larger, or I should say longer speaker than the S400, but it's still relatively compact. Now on the back, this is when you're going to notice some key differences. So instead of having a passive radiating driver, it now uses the same 6-inch paper cone woofer that's found on the front of the speaker, making this a sealed design. Now you will also notice that there's a plate amp on the back because yes, this is a fully active speaker that features dual DAC chips from Texas Instruments, as well as quad-core DSP, which is partially why the driver arrangement is now reversed from the S400 because phase correction is now occurring in the digital domain. Beyond that, this is going to be a very powerful speaker. It features 3 Class D amplifiers that'll output 150 watts to each driver. So now let's take a closer look at what you get on the back. So on the back we have a USB input, and this is going to be very critical towards manipulating the sound of the speaker, something that I'll get to later on. You may not be able to see it from your vantage point right here, but there's also a home theater setup. So this is actually future-proofed for HT use as Buchardt Audio releases more products. They plan on releasing a WiSA subwoofer, as well as a center channel, and so on and so forth. You will notice a balanced XLR input, so that is going to be pretty cool. And there's also going to be our typical on-off switch, as well as an IEC for our power cord. So now, speaking of WiSA, this speaker is WiSA compatible, meaning that if you own a TV or any kind of device that is WiSA enabled, you can connect it directly to the A500, which is pretty cool. But the big story here is going to be the hub, so let's talk about that now. Okay, so here's the wireless hub, and even though it was neither designed or manufactured by Buchardt Audio, it nonetheless plays a critical role in the A500 ecosystem, and that's because it takes the source signal and then transfers it wirelessly to the speaker. So unless you only use WiSA-enabled devices, you're going to need this. Now first, let's talk about the connections on the back. So we have an analog input, 3 optical inputs, an HDMI in, a USB in, a coax in, as well as an auxiliary in. Beyond that, since most of you like to stream your data, it's going to be compatible with most major operating systems like PC, Apple, Rune, and of course Android. Beyond that, it's also going to be compatible with most major music streaming services like AirPlay, Qbuzz, Tidal, Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, and the list goes on and on. If you want a full list, just click on the description box down below and go to the product page, and you'll be able to check out the full list of compatible streaming services. But that really is only scratching the surface of what makes the hub so important. Remember the ability to customize the sound that I was speaking about earlier? Well, 2 important pieces of software are only going to be available through this hub. So first, there's going to be the in-room EQ, which is available right now. So this is going to be software that you download to your phone, and what it will do is it will use the microphone on your phone to take measurements of your room, and then it will adjust the frequency response of the speaker to be ideal for your seated listening position. Now, the only downside is that it's currently only available on iOS. However, Buchardt tells me it will be available through Android devices at some point in the future. I think their ETA is around 5 to 6 months from now. Another piece of software that is in development by Buchardt Audio is going to be something that serves as like a parametric EQ only in the digital domain. And the good news about this is it won't force the speaker to do something it may be uncomfortable with doing, which can happen if you're not careful with more analog devices. Beyond that, though, outside of the hub, one of the most critical ways to change the sound of the speaker right now is through something called master tunings. Now, these are going to be files that are available on Buchardt Audio's website. And that's what makes this speaker really so unique, is because it has a digital crossover and it has DSP, they can dramatically alter the presentation by manipulating the tuning. So they can tune it between a 2.5-way speaker to a full-on 3-way speaker. They can change the crossover points, they can change the crossover slopes, and this will have a dramatic impact on the sound. Now, I've already tested around a dozen or so different tunings that they've been experimenting with, and I can confirm that, yes, you can definitely manipulate the sound to a pretty big degree using just these tunings. Now, the cool thing is it's very easy to install. You essentially go to the website, download the tune onto a thumb drive, then you plug the thumb drive directly into the speaker. It's best to turn off the speaker and then turn it on. Once you do that, you'll notice that the lights around here will circle up, and that just means the file's been downloaded, and once it's in the speaker, it is in there for good. So you can turn it off for weeks, months, even years at a time, and it will still have that profile downloaded into the speaker. And this is a very easy way to change the sound to your taste until, of course, that parametric EQ comes out, and now you'll have multiple ways to adjust the sound according to your needs and what it is that you think is enjoyable. So that's all well and good, but now it's time to talk about how it sounds right now. Okay, so this is going to be one of the shortest performance summaries in Zero Fidelity history because, well, number one, the sound is very straightforward on these speakers, but then number two, because it can be manipulated so clearly by software, it's hard for me to come up with a summary that's going to be relatable to everybody. So all I can do is share my initial experiences with you guys. So first, about the general performance when you take it out the box and you use the current stock tune. So overall, the big question is, okay, is it an S400 but like on steroids? And I would say the answer is mostly. So first, let's go down the list of complaints that people have historically had about the S400s. A lot of people feel like the top end is usually just a little bit too dull sounding and not lively enough. Or some people don't like the fact that you need to push the volume just a little bit in order to get a lively and full presentation out of the S400s. Some people wish it was more dynamic, maybe a little cleaner sounding, and some people wish that you could take it to just slightly louder volumes without as much distortion. And all of that has been addressed in the A500. The top end is now much more extended, it's much more prominent, but it's still not overbearing in any way. It's not harsh, it's not sibilant, it just straight up sounds better. And then in terms of sounding good at low volumes, the A500 is significantly better than the S400. You could barely have the speakers on and it will sound clear, dialogue will be very intelligible, and overall you're just getting a more balanced, fuller sounding presentation at lower volumes. And then when it comes to the ability to sound dynamic and clean, this is just a more open, more clean, more detailed, more dynamic sounding speaker. The bass is stronger, it hits harder, it digs deeper, it's just straight up better in pretty much every objective parameter. So what are going to be some of the compromises with the sound? Well, I would say that it's hard to say because out of the box, I do feel like it takes on more that typical active DSP type speaker that's on the cool side of neutral, maybe just a little bit dry. And that's not really to my personal taste, but again, in comes the software manipulation. So I tried a number of different master tunes with this speaker that Buchardt Audio is working on, and one of the tunes in particular that measured very poorly, in fact apparently the engineer had to be wrestled to the ground in order to create it, is my favorite tune because what that does is that illuminates the mid-range. It gives it that nice warm luscious character that I love so much about the original S400. In fact, it sounds like the original S400, only better with that tune. So I can't really say it has this cool, somewhat thin-sounding mid-range because when you use that tune, it doesn't. And that's really the beauty of this speaker, is that there are so many possibilities with it, and this is just the very beginning. Once the parametric EQ or the digital EQ comes out and all of the other pieces of software are fine-tuned, this is going to be an incredibly flexible speaker that will pair up to a number of people's taste. But still, it's not the perfect speaker. Obviously, at this stage in the game, there are some caveats worth mentioning, so let's do that now. Actually, before we move on, guys, there's one more critical thing that I need to talk about in terms of performance. So when I first evaluated these speakers, I connected everything through the hub, meaning I connected my CD player to the hub and it sent a wireless signal out to my speakers. And I have to admit, it sounded really good, but I couldn't help but wonder if it would sound even better going more the old school route and routing everything through my preamplifier instead and just using the XLRs, which would completely bypass the hub. I thought that my Parasound JC2BP preamplifier would just wipe the floor with the hub, and honestly, guys, that didn't happen. While I do think it sounded ever so slightly better than going through the hub directly from my CD player, it wasn't nearly as superior as I thought it was going to be. And this is really the first time I've had to eat humble pie and admit that wireless tech has gotten to the point to where it is really good, and it's something that I think a lot of you will have fun experimenting with, at least for those of you who try out the speaker system. Anyways, just wanted to relay that experience to you guys, so now it's time to go on with the caveats. Alright guys, so the last time I had a lot of points to go over, I created a list so I could keep track of my thoughts. And I'm going to do that this time around again, even though it looks a little bit unprofessional, because I don't want to miss anything here. So the first caveat is obvious. Look, this is brand new technology. It's not going to be perfect out of the gate, but Buchardt Audio is heavily invested into the speaker, and they're committed to making sure that it works right. So even if you do run into issues, odds are they will work on a solution for you in a fairly timely, time-efficient manner. Next, yes, these are more powerful speakers than the regular S400. They can get louder. They can dig deeper. In fact, I forgot to mention that, yes, they can hit 25 hertz on the stock tune. It's really impressive. But here's the thing. If you want true floor standing speaker performance, I'm talking about the sense of scale and the ability to output a lot of volume, then there's still no replacement for displacement, meaning that you will still want to go with a set of floor standing speakers. Thankfully, Buchardt Audio has a pair of active speakers or active towers in the works. Next, let's talk about the fact that the noise floor is high. When you have a lot of power in this little speaker that's close to the drivers, that's going to be a byproduct. Now, to work around this, Buchardt Audio is going to have the speaker turn itself off when it's not outputting signal, which means you're not really going to notice it, or I should say most people won't notice it unless you are in the near field. And even then, I noticed that most people haven't even picked up on it, to include studio engineers. So maybe I'm just really sensitive to it. Nonetheless, the last caveat is that, look, some people are going to complain about the price, and I get it. It's an expensive speaker. It's out of the reach of many individuals, but I also feel like it's all about context, because when you look at what's available for the same amount of money in, say, the world of headphones, the A500s suddenly start looking like a bargain. And in my opinion, I do think it's a matter of you get what you pay for. And that leads me to my final thoughts. Okay, so to wrap up this video, first, let's talk about performance. Are the A500's $4,500 good? Ultimately, I would say yes, because they take the foundation of the S400 sound and then they improve upon it in pretty much every way possible, but it goes even beyond that. The A500s really do represent the future of hi-fi because it's this ecosystem that allows you to customize a sound to match both the room that you have it in, as well as the ability to customize the sound to your taste in a way that's impossible to achieve with a passive loudspeaker system. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to buy any more components, if you're somebody who doesn't really want to wrestle with trying to get great sound out of an expensive hi-fi system, and you just want it to work within their own physical limitations, the A500s just make sense. Now, who is it not geared towards? Well, who it's not geared towards are two-channel enthusiasts or nerds like myself. The rare person who actually enjoys the process of building a stereo system the analog way, where you try to find the right speakers for a living space and then you actually have fun trying to find the right equipment to go with those speakers, as well as toying around with the placement and how to really maximize the performance out of that system. If you're like me and if you know what you're doing, that's a very critical qualifier, then yes, I think you can achieve as good, if not better, performance for your money. But if that's not you, the A500s will likely allow you to achieve better sound, and you don't really have to work for it in order to get that better performance. Anyways, guys, that's going to be my take on the A500s right now, because remember, this is still a new product, and given the nature of how it works, it will evolve and improve over time. So if you're curious about my impressions of this speaker, let's say 5 or 6 months from now, let me know in the comment section, because by then, all the software should be available to you all as well as to myself. And there should be a number of different master tunings available as well. And it would be interesting to know just how they've improved and changed the sound over time. Anyways, guys, that's going to be my take on the A500s as of this point. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace. Okay guys, I know you're used to me ending my videos with some kind of a comparison, but unfortunately I don't have anything for you because I don't have another product in my house that's like the A500. Now I am aware that they're not the only game in town. I know System Audio has a solution that's similar. Key as well as Dutch and Dutch also have very similar solutions, although the other two are significantly more expensive. But the good news is there is going to be one person who's covering the A500s that's very familiar with those products, so they should be able to comment on it with a lot more authority than myself. So keep an eye out for their review coming in the future. The only other thing I need to mention is that, look, I had a working relationship with Buchardt Audio throughout 2019. It has since ended, actually, at the very end of 2019, but it's nonetheless something I want you all to know about. For more details, just click on the description box and I have more information for you to read so you can judge the authenticity of this video for yourself. Now, it wasn't really influenced by my relationship with Buchardt at all, but again, that's going to be up for you to decide. Anyways, guys, for real this time, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.